All right, let's talk about those moments, those pivotal make or break times that can literally define a company's entire future. It's when the world shifts under your feet and you're forced to make a huge choice. We're going to see how some companies navigate this, sometimes with a really bold move like this retrograde maneuver. But it all starts with spotting that moment when everything is about to change. So, let's dive in.
I know. It sounds like the beginning of a really weird joke, right? But the answer, believe it or not, tells us something absolutely fundamental about how to handle radical, disruptive change.
And that's it. That is the one thing they all share. Every single one of them is standing at a crossroads, a point where the very next decision they make could launch them into incredible success or send them spiraling into total irrelevance.
And this moment, this critical crossroads, it actually has a name. And it's the big idea we're going to unpack today. It's called the strategic inflection point. So what does that actually mean? Well, think of it this way. It's the moment when the rule book you've been playing by suddenly gets thrown out the window. Maybe it's a new technology. Maybe your customers change their minds about what they want. Or maybe a new competitor just shows up and rewrites the rules. The point is, what worked yesterday is no longer a guarantee for tomorrow. You adapt or you risk fading away. And believe me, the stakes here are massive. This isn't about making a few small adjustments to the business plan. We're talking about huge, fundamental questions. Do you jump into a brand new market? Do you sacrifice the stability you have now for a shot at something bigger down the road? Every single choice is absolutely loaded with risk and opportunity.
Okay, so to really get our heads around this, let's look at a real-world example. Let's dig into the story of a company called Precision Plastics, who found themselves staring an inflection point right in the face.
Now, Precision Plastics, these guys were doing everything right. I mean, look at these numbers. A small but super efficient team of 12 bringing in almost $3 million a year. They've got the best equipment, the right certifications. They were solid, profitable, the kind of business you'd think was totally safe. And then, bam, the rug gets pulled out from under them. Out of nowhere, their two biggest clients, the absolute core of their business, come to them and say, we need a 15% price cut. Now, just like that, their whole stable world has turned upside down. This is their inflection point. So what do? This is the choice they're facing. On one hand, they can try to stick it out in the automotive market. It's what they know, right? But it's a world where their profits are just dissolving. Or they can do something radical. They can pivot. They can take everything they know about making high-quality plastic components and aim it at a completely different target, making custom parts for people who restore vintage computers. A total wild card, but one that's full of passionate customers and maybe a whole lot of opportunity.
But here's a twist for you. In an inflection point, it's not always about a crisis, about things going wrong. Sometimes, the biggest crisis you can face comes from things going too right. And for that, let's turn to the wonderful, magical world of Wonka Industries.
Remember the whole golden ticket frenzy? Well, after that, sales didn't just get a little bump. They went nuclear. Just look at this chart. We're talking a sustained 180% increase over what they were doing before. They literally couldn't make chocolate fast enough. And that amazing success, well, it became its own kind of crisis.
And this really gets to the heart of their problem. The company was caught between two worlds. On one side, you have the whimsical, inventive magic that made everyone fall in love with Wonka. On the other, you have the cold, hard reality of needing to be a pragmatic, efficient business. So the question becomes, how do you grow up without selling out? How do you scale without losing your soul? That's a massive inflection point.
All right, for our last story, we're looking at a totally different kind of inflection point. This one isn't caused by a shrinking market or runaway success. No, this one is born out of fear, a fear of what the future might hold. Let's talk about Teknova.
So Teknova, right? These guys were at the top of their game in the smartphone world, but the leadership got obsessed with this idea they called the Great Disconnection. They were convinced a massive cultural backlash against smartphones was coming. And their solution? It was wild. They decided to pivot away from the thing that made them successful and bring back the pager. Seriously, a mindful beep device. They were betting the entire farm on a future that might not even exist.
Okay, so let's recap. We've got a dying market, success that's too big to handle, and a gamble on a scary future. 3 totally different scenarios, right? But look closer, and you'll see they all point to the exact same thing. You absolutely need a plan,
a framework for when you hit one of these crossroads.
So here it is. This is the playbook, a simple 4-step framework that connects all these stories. First up, step 1, identify the pressure. You have to know why you're at this crossroads. For Precision Plastics, it was a clear external threat. Their market was eroding. For Wonka, the pressure was internal. They were buckling under their own success. And for Teknova, it was a future speculative threat they saw coming. Okay, step 2, analyze your core strengths. What's in your toolbox? What makes you unique? Precision had those amazing injection molding machines they could repurpose. Wonka's core strength was that incredible magical brand. Step 3 is to evaluate the opportunity. Really look at the new path. Is it real? Is it viable? Wonka had to figure out if mass production would kill the brand's magic. Teknova had to place a huge bet that people actually wanted a mindful pager. And finally, the big one, step 4, calculate the risk. What are you giving up? What happens if you're wrong? Teknova literally gambled their entire smartphone business on the mindful beep. Precision risked walking away from a market they knew inside and out for something completely new. You gotta ask yourself, what's the cost of failure? And is it a price you're willing to pay?
And that brings us right back to you. Because here's the thing. These inflection points, they aren't just for big companies. They happen in our careers, in our businesses, in our lives. These patterns we've just talked about, they're universal. So it's not a question of if you're going to face one, it's a question of when and how you're going to handle it. So think about it. What's your inflection point?